There was an old water-bearer in a small village who carried two large pots, one hanging from each end of a pole balanced across his shoulders. One of the pots was perfect, not a single flaw along its surface. It carried water from the stream to the old man's house every single day, and every single day it arrived completely full, exactly as it had left the stream. The other pot had a crack running down one side. By the time the old man reached his house each day, that pot was only half full. The water had leaked out slowly across the entire walk, drop by drop, the whole distance from the stream to home. This went on for 2 years. 2 years of the perfect pot delivering full measure, and the cracked pot delivering only half every single day, without exception. If you've never heard this one before, stay with me. It has one of the gentlest endings in this whole collection. And if stories like this are the kind of thing you want more of, waiting for you every day, go ahead and subscribe right now so you don't miss what comes next. The perfect pot was, understandably, quite proud of its accomplishments. It had been made for this exact purpose, and it fulfilled that purpose completely, every day, without fail. The cracked pot, on the other hand, carried a private shame that grew heavier the longer the arrangement continued. It was painfully aware of its own imperfection. It could feel, every single day, the water slipping away through its crack, leaving a shrinking trail on the path behind them as they walked. It could only ever deliver half of what it was supposed to deliver, and no matter how carefully the old man carried it, the crack was the crack, and the leaking was the leaking. After 2 full years of what the cracked pot believed was total, unrelieved failure, it finally could not hold the shame in any longer. One morning, at the stream, before they began the walk home, the cracked pot spoke to the old man. "I am ashamed of myself," it said, "and I want to apologize to you." The old man, filling both pots as he did every morning, looked at the cracked pot with something like surprise. "Why?" he asked. "What have you got to be ashamed of?" "For these past 2 years," the cracked pot said, "I have only been able to deliver half my load because water leaks out of the crack in my side all the way back to your house. You bear the cost of my flaw every single day, and I have given you only half of what I should have given you because of what is wrong with me." The old man was quiet for a moment. Then he said something the pot did not expect. "As we walk back today," he said, "I want you to notice something. Notice the flowers along your side of the path." The cracked pot, curious despite its shame, paid attention as they walked. And as they went along the path that morning, the cracked pot did notice. On its side of the trail, all along the walk, there was a stretch of beautiful wildflowers growing right along the path's edge, in colors and abundance that seemed almost impossible for a patch of ground beside a dirt road. It had never noticed them properly before, too consumed by its own private shame to look up. "Did you see the flowers on your side of the path?" the old man asked, once they reached the house. "I did," the cracked pot said, "but I don't understand. What do the flowers have to do with my flaw?" The old man smiled. "I have known about your crack since the very day I found you," he said. "I never once tried to hide it from myself or fix it out of embarrassment, because I saw something in it early on that I don't think you have ever seen in yourself." He set both pots down and continued. "I planted flower seeds along your side of the path," he said. "Every day, as we walked home together, the water leaking slowly from your crack watered those seeds. For 2 years, without you ever knowing it, you have been watering an entire garden along your side of the road. I have picked those flowers regularly to decorate my table. Without your particular flaw, exactly as it is, none of that beauty would exist. If you had been a perfect pot, like your companion here, I would have had only a plain path and an empty table, and this village would have one less place of beauty in it. Naturalist, if this story is landing somewhere in you right now, if there's a part of yourself you've been quietly ashamed of, the way the cracked pot was, I'd love for you to share it, even just a little, in the comments below. You might be surprised how many people reading it are carrying something almost exactly the same. The cracked pot said nothing for a long moment. It thought about the 2 years of shame it had carried, certain that its flaw made it lesser than its perfect companion. It thought about how it had measured its own worth purely by the standard the perfect pot had set. Full delivery, no leakage, no flaw, and had judged itself as failing by that standard every single day. It had never once considered that its worth might be measured by an entirely different standard altogether. Not less water delivered, but more life created. Not the absence of flaw, but the particular, unrepeatable beauty that only its specific flaw had made possible. The old man picked a handful of the flowers that had grown along the cracked pot side of the path that very morning, and set them gently on the table inside his house, where they filled the room with color and fragrance for the rest of the week. The perfect pot, for its part, had delivered exactly what it always delivered, full measure, precisely as expected. There was nothing wrong with this, and the old man valued it exactly as much as before. But the old man had never once wished the cracked pot were perfect too, because a village with 2 perfect pots would have had clean water and nothing more. It would never have had the wild flowers along the path, growing wild and unexpected and beautiful, watered patiently, quietly, every single day, by something the world had first taught the cracked pot to see only as a flaw. The old man continued this arrangement for many more years, and the cracked pot, though it still occasionally felt the old familiar shame when it noticed water slipping through its crack, learned to look, in those moments, at the flowers along the path instead. It began to understand something that took the rest of its long life to fully settle into, but that changed everything about how it carried itself from that morning forward. Every one of us has cracks. Every one of us carries some flaw we believe disqualifies us from being enough, from measuring up, from being as valuable as whoever nearby seems whole and unflawed and complete. But the things we consider our flaws are so often, quietly, exactly what allows something beautiful to grow in the world that would never have existed otherwise. The very same crack that leaked water down a dusty path also grew wildflowers along it. The very same imperfection that felt, from the inside, like failure, was, from the old man's perspective, from the flower's perspective, from the perspective of anyone who ever admired that particular stretch of path, the entire reason for the beauty that existed there at all. If you needed to hear tonight that your cracks might be growing flowers you haven't noticed yet, subscribe so more reminders like this one find you when you need them. And if there's a flaw you've been carrying quiet shame about, leave it in the comments below, even in just a few words. Someone tonight might read it and feel a little less alone in carrying their own. Sleep well. Somewhere along your path, right now, something is blooming because of exactly the thing you thought was broken.